On this James the Bike Guy, we're checking out a super fun and playful full suspension mountain bike with a carbon frame, 130 millimeters of travel, and of course this beautiful Tonka Truck Yellow paint job. And we're going to go into the features of this 2022 Santa Cruz 5010 C Carbon S build, as well as find out what it weighs. So if this kind of thing is interesting to you, be sure to stick around and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. The 5010 series from Santa Cruz is one of their most popular trail bikes that they sell. The 5010 started life in its very first generation as a bike called the Solo. And in fact, because they had to change the name, you'll notice the 5010 almost says Solo in its own. But basically this bike has been designed to be, the bike for somebody who wants something playful and fun, but also still really capable. And Santa Cruz is doing that by running this bike with 140 millimeters of front suspension travel and 130 millimeters of rear suspension, while also providing some super playful geometry and a bunch of modern features to make it way more usable. Now, this being the 2022, it runs an identical frame to the 2021, but 2021 was a huge upgrade over the previous generation. Getting into the frame of this generation of 5010 really comes in to this suspension design. So Santa Cruz is really well known for having awesome running suspension. They use something called VPP, which is a virtual pivot point style suspension with two counter-rotating links. And for 2021, and of course carried into 22, is this low link design. And by low link, that means the shock is down low. The lower pivot, you'll notice, is actually inside of here. It's almost a triangular shape, and they've brought all the center of mass lower on the bike, nice and tight, and that's allowed them to tighten up the rear end of the bike too. The chainstays on this are really short, but then still have a roomy front end to the bike, nice slack head tube and steep seat tube, combined up with still running 27.5-inch wheels. Now, as you've seen most of their other bikes, the big brother version of this, the Bronson, it's gone mullet with a 29 up front and 27.5 in back. But I'm super psyched to see that the 5010 is remaining with the 27.5s front and rear for a true to form, playful small wheel feel. Now for geometry, we'll check this out. It's got a high and low position that you can adjust on the lower pivot link. And in high position, the head tube angle is 65.7, or in low, 65.4. The seat tube angle is 77.6 degrees in high, or 77.2 in low. And then the chainstay length is 423 millimeters with a bottom bracket drop of 16 millimeters in high. Now, those numbers really give this that playful feel we talked about. Having a 65.4 degree head tube angle, this angle here when it's in low, I mean, just a few years ago, that was DH specs, and it's super cool to see. And out back with only 423 millimeters, they're tucking that rear wheel in super tight, which makes this a real short chainstay, especially for a bike with 130 millimeters of travel. Now, controlling the suspension, of course, we've got this RockShox Super Deluxe Select Rear Shock. The Select Rear Shock is going to have a 2-position mode, a open and then closed position, and then you're going to have adjustable rebound here to control how it feels. And there are tokens inside that you can add and remove to change up the progressivity of that rear shock. And going to the front shock, we've got a RockShox Pike on the front end. This happens to be the Pike Select Plus, 140 millimeters of front travel, and the Pike operates with these huge 35 millimeter stanchions, the Charger damper, and then on the non-drive side, we have air adjustment, their Deb-on-Air air spring, and of course the fork in the front end is Boost 15x110, whereas the back of the bike runs Boost 12x148. The cockpit on the CS build starts off with an aluminum handlebar and stem. So on the spec sheet, it has a BergTech handlebar. However, you can see here, we've got a Raceface AFEC 35, but it is mounting up with a BergTech alloy stem. This is a 35 millimeter bar clamp stem, which means this diameter is 35, going down to the tapered head tube, of course. And then as we look to the back, you have a WTB Volt saddle for Santa Cruz. I love that they have their own branding onto it. Nice saddle mounted up on a RockShox Reverb seat post. So this seat post here is a dropper post, meaning with the 1x style lever up top, you can press this lever and that's going to allow the seat post to drop down with your body weight or rise back up when you bring your body weight off. Moving into the drivetrain, this of course being the CS version of the bike, that means it's going to be a mid-level build with the S variant. So we're not surprised to see a nice SRAM 1x12 drivetrain. So it's got 12 speeds out back with a super wide range cassette and then a single ring up front, making it really easy with all the shifting happening in back. So it's a SRAM GX rear derailleur. This rear derailleur is the lunar version, which can go 10 to 52 tooth. But because the bike is 27.5, a little bit smaller wheel, you don't need the 52 tooth cassette. So they actually run it with a 10 to 50 tooth, which gives a 500% range, nice setup with the XD driver. And then you go up front to this 1x style crankset. It's a GX crankset with a threaded bottom bracket and a 32 tooth chain ring with a narrow wide profile to help keep the chain on, keep it from jumping off, even without needing to run a chain guide. Now, while we're down here, you'll see there are ISCG mounts. Those basically allow you to run a chain guide or a bash guard down below to help protect this chainring if you wanted to. Brakes are outfitted with a nice trail system, the G2R brakes. So the G2 brake runs a hydraulic lever and 4-piston caliper down at the wheels. And one of the things I really like about this lever setup is it does have a reach adjustment. So you can dial in the reach, and that's in fact what that R is standing for. Wheels and tires on the bike are courtesy of Raceface and Maxxis. So here you see the Minion DHR2. This is a 27.5 by 2.4 width tire. Of course, tubeless ready with the EXO protection, as well as their 3C max grip compound, so a super sticky tire, and you'll see big spacing in between, nice strong side knobs for lots of control. This is the kind of tire that works best when you start opening it up. And then the wheels are the AR30. This is a 30 millimeter wide alloy rim laced up with some DT 370 hubs. The actual weight for the Santa Cruz 5010 CS build, size small, comes in and weighs 29.37 pounds. Well, thanks for watching this video on the 2022 Santa Cruz 5010. This is the carbon model with the S build, and personally I think it's pretty well spec'd. I love what they've done for 2022, and I'm curious to see your thoughts down in the comment section below. So don't forget to let me know, hit that thumbs up button, and definitely hit subscribe so that way you can see more videos like this in the future.